Our garden simply wouldn't be the same without wood chip mulch. Among other things, it suppresses weeds, nourishes our plants, saves water, and it provides habitat and food for beneficial soil organisms. Today I'll talk about how and why we use wood chip mulch in our garden. Let's start by talking more about the benefits of wood chips. After many years of mulching, you can definitely see how it's improved our soil. Wood chips improve soil structure and the soil's ability to absorb and hold water. They also prevent compaction and erosion and moderate soil temperatures. They also provide a slow release of nutrients for plants, increase biodiversity in the garden, and create a habitat for beneficial organisms like earthworms and mycorrhizal fungi. Wood chips improve the appearance of my garden, and they make my life a lot easier by suppressing weeds. Now let's address some of the concerns people sometimes have about using wood chips in the garden. Contrary to what you may have heard, wood chips won't make your soil acidic. Even if the chips themselves are acidic, their pH will move towards neutral as they decompose. They also won't tie up nitrogen, as long as you don't mix the wood chips into the soil. They will use nitrogen at the mulch-soil interface, but not in the root zone where the plants need it. In fact, after decomposition, wood chips actually provide a net increase in nitrogen to the soil. Another concern is that wood chip mulches are allelopathic, which means they inhibit the germination and growth of other plants. Fortunately, most woods are not allelopathic, but I would avoid wood chip mulches that contain a high percentage of fresh black walnut branches, leaves, and fruit, because these materials are allelopathic, and they should be hot composted before use. Finally, wood chips won't attract carpenter ants or termites to the garden. And though they provide an excellent habitat for slugs and snails, they also provide a great habitat for slug and snail predators like ground beetles and centipedes. Years ago, we used to go out at night with flashlights, and we'd find dozens of slugs munching on our plants. But after many years of mulching with wood chips, this year I may have found only a dozen slugs in total. I'm convinced this is because the wood chips provide an excellent habitat for slug predators like ground beetles and centipedes. Now let's talk about how I use wood chips in the garden. I use wood chips on our perennials, walking paths, and some of our larger annuals, but I don't use them on smaller, intensively planted crops like carrots, beets, and radishes. While it's easy to dig a furrow in the wood chips to plant a row of carrots, it's not so easy to intensively plant 16 carrots per square foot in soil that is covered with a thick layer of wood chips. In those areas, I use lighter mulches like grass clippings and leaves, which I can easily brush aside to plant and return after the plants are established. To apply the wood chips, I simply dump them onto the soil and spread them with a garden rake to the desired depth. I don't mix the chips into the soil. Here I'm mulching a garden path, as well as tomatoes and beans that are on the edge of the path. Some sources recommend using 12 inches of wood chips in the first year, followed by smaller applications in subsequent years. I probably started with about 6 inches in the first year, and apply about 2 to 4 inches every year now. One of my concerns is I don't want too much material to build up, because I need to keep the yard lower than the house so that water continues to flow away from the house. Now let's take a look at how I mulch around our fruit trees. Once again, I'll apply just a couple inches of wood chip mulch. All I do is spread the chips around the perimeter of the tree, but I leave about 8 inches between the tree and the edge of the mulch. This part of the tree really isn't adapted to be under the soil surface or buried in any way, and the tree will be less susceptible to fungal diseases if I leave a little bit of space here between the wood chips and the tree. Thanks to the wood chips, I won't have to water our fruit trees often. I also won't have to fertilize them. The wood chip mulch, plus other mulches like chop and drop garden waste and comfrey, will provide more than enough nutrients. Now let's mulch our asparagus. This will be the first time I've used wood chip mulch on them, so I'm going to go fairly light just to make sure I don't suppress growth. If you have experience mulching asparagus with wood chips, let me know in a comment below how deep you go with it. I'm going to go just a couple inches today. Spread it around nice and even. And that should do it.